Hi everyone, welcome back to our Bible study. Today we're talking about Psalm 77. I hope you're having a good day. If you want to download the PDF for this study, it's available on our website at tobelikechrist.com, and there's a link down in the description. Today we're talking about Psalm 77, written by Asaph, and we always try to tie our Psalms into any New Testament references that we might have to them, but today, once again, we don't have any. We do have one theme, though, that we need to talk about, and one definition. The theme is fighting for faith by reminding oneself of God's great works in your past or in the past of others. In this case, the past of the nation of Israel, who Asaph was a part of. Our one definition today is the word Selah. Not going to go over this definition again because we've gone over it so many times. And so if you need it, pause the video here and look at the definition. For the rest of us, let's jump over and start page number 2, talk about our outline. A total of 20 verses and 3 sections today. The first one's verses 1 through 9. The question, has God abandoned us? So Asaph was in a period of perceived distance from God. God's blessings seemed to be absent from the land, and Asaph was worried that God was angry at his people. Asaph was distressed about this, and he wasn't able to find any comfort, and so he goes to the Lord, and he asks the Lord to resolve this issue. He asks in verse 7 through 9, quote, "Will the Lord spurn forever and never again be favorable? Has his steadfast love forever ceased? Are his promises at an end for all time? Has God forgotten to be gracious? Has he in anger shut up his compassion?" Section number 2, remembering the past to reinforce present faith. This is verses 10 through 15. So Asaph was not ready to conclude that God had abandoned his people. To reinforce his faith, he decided to reminisce about all the things that God had done for the nation in the past. He was going to spend some time meditating on God's great miracles and God's care for his people throughout the previous centuries. And we'll talk about one of the specific times that he meditates on in the next section, which is verses 16 through 20, thinking back to the Red Sea. One of the most incredible miracles that God has ever done that's been documented in the Bible, but especially in the history of Israel, one that Asaph's mind went back to, was God parting the waters of the Red Sea to allow the Israelites to cross, and then those waters to eventually destroy the Egyptians so that the Israelites could escape once and for all Egyptian slavery. And Asaph recalled, not that he was there, but he looks back through the lens of history, and he recalls how the waters responded to God's voice. The waters feared the Lord. They obeyed him when he commanded them to do something. The psalmist talks about God leading his people through the Red Sea, not as a man. He wasn't leaving footprints in the sand, but he was the one who was directing them to move through, and he was obviously working through his representative, Moses. So Asaph thinks, if God led Moses and Aaron and all these ancestors of mine through the Red Sea and gave them freedom and brought them some deliverance and salvation, certainly it wouldn't be right for me to give up on God now. Wouldn't be right for me to conclude that he's just abandoned us forever. So his meditation on the Red Sea crossing helped him get through this period of doubt that's described in the first 9 verses of this chapter. And so that is Psalm 77. We can drop down now and talk about our application. This is one psalm, one of several psalms, that shows us that godly people aren't immune to a little bit of doubt and a little bit of despair. Even a person who knows the stories about God's great deeds in the past can struggle with periods of prolonged hardship. In your walk with the Lord, you're going to experience different peaks and valleys. There's going to be times when you're on the mountaintop, everything's going great, you feel very close to God. This is not a psalm for those moments and for people in that situation. This is a psalm for people who are fighting for their faith in the trenches. And this psalm teaches us through the pattern that Asaph gives us how to sustain our faith and fight for our faith in those difficult times.